Let's get to the actual speakership fight. There's some crazy stuff happening here in Washington. Matt Gaetz, there was a will he, won't he, all-day speculation yesterday. At one point, the story appeared to be he was backing down, Krystal.
Yeah.
He was like, maybe I don't have the votes, we'll see. And then late last night, or I guess late for me, around 7 p.m., he goes ahead and he officially introduces the resolution to vacate this speakership for Kevin McCarthy, also then drawing tremendous laughter from the Democrats in the chamber. Let's take a listen.
Declaring the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives to be vacant. Resolved that the office of Speaker of the House of Representatives is hereby declared to be vacant.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
You'll have to wait a minute. Okay, so that laughter you could hear as Gaetz was exiting the chamber. Democrats obviously giddy because it just means more drama and chaos on the Republican side. So it'll be fun. And Matt Gaetz actually gave a press conference immediately after introducing this resolution. Let's take a listen to what he said.
If there's a deal made with Democrats, the only deal is to make one with McCarthy, because I'm not offering anything and won't offer anything. And by the way, if the Democrats want to own Kevin McCarthy, they can have it. Because one thing I'm at peace with is when we stand here a week from now, I won't own Kevin McCarthy anymore. He won't belong to me. So if the Democrats want to adopt him, they can adopt him. I mean, the Speaker did not just fail to remediate the breach of the agreement he made with us in January. He accelerated the instances of breach. Like, after I laid out the breach, he went and violated the 72-hour rule. After I laid out the breach, he violated the $100 million no amendment suspension rule. So he seems to be reverting to the very unfortunate muscle memory of Washington, D.C., that has put our nation atop a $33 trillion debt, that has led to $2 trillion annual deficits in our near future, and the rapid global de-dollarization of the economy. I mean, you look at the BRICS system, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, they're moving away from the dollar. And just in August, they added 6 new countries, including G20 economies in the Western Hemisphere and Gulf monarchies. Moreover, you saw U.S. News say that the number one economic trend of 2023 is de-dollarization globally. This worries me. You all get all worked up that there's going to be some uncomfortable, chaotic moment, that I'll feel pressure from conservatives or Democrats or whomever. I feel the judgment of history. I feel the weight of that. I worry that when the history books are written about this country going down, that my name is going to be on the board of directors here. And if this country's going down, and if we're losing the dollar, I am going down fighting.
Okay, so big words there from Matt Gaetz. If the Democrats want to own him, they can have him. But then the question is, Krystal, will the Democrats vote for him?
I don't think they really want to own him.
Nobody knows right now. The interesting thing, too, is McCarthy, as of yesterday, ahead of the vote and before it all became official, he did not even say that he would negotiate with Democrats, somehow saying it's like not good for the institution. Here's what he had to say. This was his reaction.
I think this is about the institution. I think it's too important. So anytime that somebody has an ethics complaint and they can't get the way they want about it, they want to roll up and the inside's going to part with 5 people and decide that, I don't think that's good for the House. I believe Nancy Pelosi, for the last 2 speakers ago, came in and said, this isn't good for the House.
McCarthy saying that this isn't good for the House. He said he's not good for the institution to try and bargain with Democrats. News late last night, actually late, by the way, around midnight, calling Hakeem Jeffries. Who knows? Who knows what happened on that conversation? So the Democrats have a meeting sometime today, a caucus meeting, where they're going to try and decide what to do. But, in terms of the whip count, nobody seems to know. Gaetz appears to have somewhere between 4 and 5 votes on his side, on the Republican side, against the speakership. They only have a 3-vote margin, so that appears to be enough to deny McCarthy the speakership. But that also means, Krystal, they only need 4 to 5 Democratic votes in order to keep Kevin McCarthy. I know that there are people, the whole problem solvers caucus, the Blue Dog caucus, all those people, very likely candidates. However, the leader of the Blue Dog caucus yesterday was asked, would you help bail out Kevin McCarthy? He said, why would I bail out somebody who's never asked me anything? So if he is to survive, a deal has to be made of some kind. We don't know what the contours of said deal would be. We don't know exactly what it would look like. I do think, I'm curious what you think. It would appear to be the worst headline on earth for Kevin McCarthy to say Kevin McCarthy needs Democratic votes in order to survive this vote. There also, though, is a prospect of, people say things all the time. Right now, it's Gaetz and like 4 or 5 others. And when I say or, because some people are maybes. all he needs is what, 2, 3 of those people? Cut a deal with those and be like, all right, which committees do you want?
Right.
You know, tell me what you want, guys. And those 2 or 3 who are right on the fence, they cut a deal, and then Gaetz and one other person votes against him, against the speakership. He survives, and then Gaetz actually looks like a fool, even though they get no Democratic votes. All of these are prospects right now, of which we don't know. It is going to be a dizzying 48 hours, because the vote has to occur within 48 hours according to House parliamentary rules.
So far, it seems the Democrats are very disinclined to save Kevin McCarthy's ass. I don't think he has done a lot to build, positive working relationships. That sound we played of him talking about, oh, the institution, whatever. I think there was a lot of eye rolling from the Democratic caucus because they feel like, oh, you care so much about the institution. Sure, buddy. I think one thing that would definitely be important to Democrats is you got to end this impeachment inquiry and these other sort of things that you've given to the right wing of your caucus. And that's an untenable position for him. Because remember, it's not just about him keeping the bulk of his caucus behind him, but this guy is the chief fundraiser for the Republican Party as well.
Yes.
So how's he going to go out and make the case to Republican donors about like, oh, you got to back me and you got to back the Republican Party if he's in some sort of a weird coalition government with Democrats, right? And then not to mention the ire of the base and the grassroots and what's Trump going to say about all of this. I mean, it's a pretty impossible situation for Kevin McCarthy at the moment. And I do think Democrats are happy to let him twist in the wind. You mentioned, one person who was like, with the Problem Solvers Caucus, who was like, he's never asked me for anything. Why would I help him? I also noted Jerry Connolly, who's kind of a, very establishment. I wouldn't necessarily call him like a moderate in that way, but he's kind of more towards the center of the caucus. He says that Democrats should let McCarthy fall. I will not enable the speakership. I'm a hard no. Democrats should think long and hard about this. There's absolutely no upside to preserving Kevin McCarthy in the speakership. It's an unstable speakership. I saw other Democrats who were saying, listen, we're going to do whatever leadership tells us to do. And we're going to stay unified behind them. Now, that could all fall apart. Perhaps McCarthy gives them something that's worth them backing him and keeping him in the speakership. But at the moment, not knowing the contents of that conversation from last night doesn't seem like Democrats are inclined to bail him out. And this vote could come as soon as today, by the way.
Yes, that's right.
He can delay it up to 2 days. That's kind of the window and the time limit that he has. So it will be at the latest 2 days from now. But there's also rumblings that it could very well be today as early as noon. So this could all be coming down really quickly. In terms of the whip count for McCarthy, you were already alluding to this, Saagar. This is from Punchbowl News. It's like DC insidery publication. And they've already got 4 on the record of saying they want to dump McCarthy. They've got another 3 who are inclined in that direction. And then you've got another group that's sort of publicly undecided. Mike Cloud, Andy Ogles, Keith Self, Ken Buck, and Ralph Norman. So that's another 5 who are like on the fence. And again, he can only lose 4. It's 3 vote margin. He can only lose 4. And you've already got 4 on the record saying they want to dump him. So maybe there's something he can offer these individuals. Maybe there's something they really want that they can bargain for because he only needs to move a couple based on where the whip count is today. But I genuinely don't know how this ends up getting resolved. It will get resolved in some fashion. I just have no idea how it's all going to shake out.
Exactly. And we want to be transparent. Nobody knows right now. It's a complete chaos factor. The other thing is, one of the reasons I'm inclined to believe that McCarthy will survive is who the hell else would replace him?
Well, that's always been the question.
Right. Because the thing is, when Boehner left, Paul Ryan never wanted to be speaker, allegedly. I don't know if that's true. But, all the reporting and all that stuff at the time was he didn't want to be speaker, but he had enough credibility because he's a former vice presidential nominee. He was like good on camera by their standards. And he was somebody who could play ball with the Freedom Caucus, and he could still get the centrist Republicans together. So even though he hated the job, people were willing to effectively draft him. There's no such figure. The only figure would be Steve Scalise. But, look, Steve Scalise, he's had a tough go of things. Obviously survived that shooting a couple of years ago. And now he's got, I believe he has cancer or some
he does.
other horrible illness.
He's undergoing treatment for cancer.
He's undergoing treatment. He's not in a position where he can be speaker. He's got health problems of his own. And he's the only other person who really has that level of credibility, I think, in the House. They even tried to do a whole draft Scalise thing before it was revealed that he had his illness. And he was like, look, I don't want the job. And it appears, especially now, like there's no way he could be in the running. There's simply no other figure. I guess It's possible Jim Jordan could be someone like that, but there's also no indication that Jim Jordan wants the job. Last time, I believe 1 or 2 people made a vote for him, or there was some sort of element to try and, cast 13, 14 votes or whatever in his direction during the big speakership fight. But there's no indication that this is something that he even desires. McCarthy really is, that candidate because he's just been around for a long time. He's been playing the game. But unfortunately for him, he just doesn't have a lot of the votes. And then, of course, the Democratic chaos element of, are they going to back McCarthy? One thing that I actually think could play a huge role in this is Ukraine. Let's go and put this up there on the screen. Matt Gaetz has been accusing Kevin McCarthy of making a side deal on Ukraine funding with the White House and with the Democrats. We don't yet know if that is true. McCarthy denies that it's true. But right now, GOP senators, and what I think a lot of Democrats are thinking is, well, maybe we will vote for him, but you have to put $100 billion or something like that on the floor of the House of Representatives for Ukraine, which would probably pass as of today, although I'm still not sure. I guess you don't need that many Republican votes if you get all the Democrats to vote for it. And then there's obviously no question that all the GOP senators would vote for it. They probably have more than 80 votes or something like that in the House. So again, it's very possible that that's what they do. That could be some sort of deal that is struck. They also may, Krystal, strike deals about procedure in the future, about their ability to bring stuff to the floor without the ascension of the speaker. But it does remind me of something that I said, I think at the time, months and months ago when this was all happening, I was like, man, if I'm Kevin McCarthy, why do you even want this job? You are
so mind-boggling.
Weakest speaker in over a century. It has literally been over a century since we saw not only the motion to vacate, but the multiple ballots to be able to elect someone.
Yeah.
I believe it was more than any time since the 1800s. Also, one of the things on the motion to vacate, nobody knows how the motion to vacate is supposed to work because the last time it was done was 1909. And
Wow.
There's no parliamentary procedure. There's this entire thing called the Congressional Research Service where they're supposed to provide research and just be here's how it works whenever X and Y happens. Usually it's easy. On this one, they had nothing. They're we don't know. They were totally uncharted territory.
Wow.
How this is all supposed to go down. So that introduces even more chaos into the system. We truly are in uncharted waters. I gotta be honest, in a way it's fun. It's fun to be able to cover these things. And it's just, it's totally uncertain. It's a lot like the CR. We just have no clue. We don't know who is going to be third in line for the presidency of the United States in 2 days from now.
Yeah, I mean, one thing I will say that I think came out in McCarthy's initial fight to become speaker is he is a survivor and he is willing to endure effectively endless humiliation in service of his goals. And you know what? If you are willing to just get embarrassed and be shamed and capitulate and bend to the whims of whoever is demanding whatever, that can be a useful trait in terms of holding on to whatever scrap of power Speaker of the House even represents at this point. So I wouldn't bet against him. As you said, Saagar, the glaring question has always been, okay, but if it's not him, who? And I saw Gaetz got asked about this yesterday, and he still has, he has no answer. Right. And he's like, yeah, well, we'll figure that out. Basically down the road, I was like, you can't beat someone with nothing. Mm-hmm. So, I think it may be kind of reminiscent of the speaker fight where there's a bunch of ballots, there's a bunch of these motions to vacate, they keep going at it until he's able to give away even more of the store to the people who are dead set against him. The other thing that I keep thinking about too is part of what has made this very complicated to understand and part of what has further exacerbated the rift is the contours of that initial deal to bring him into the speakership were never made public.
That's right.
So it's always been this sort of he said about what was actually agreed to and whether or not McCarthy is in violation of this secret deal or not. None of us has any way to judge. And I don't even think the full Republican caucus has any way to judge what was actually agreed to in that deal. So Gaetz claims he's in violation. There may be pieces where it's more clear-cut, where it was more public. But overall, the fact that this was so secretive has made it so that you really can't assess whether he has held up his end of the bargain or not.
Look, we have no clue. Just here's the takeaway. Nobody knows what the hell is going on. We'll be tracking it.
Makes it interesting.
Counterpoints will be on tomorrow, and obviously we'll be here back on Thursday. So maybe we'll know. Maybe we'll be able to do that. I think we'll post this one early, and we'll get it out to everybody just because things are moving quickly. late. We've got Congressman Ro Khanna coming into the studio very soon. We'll ask him his reaction as well. I believe it'll be before the Democratic meeting. So I'm very curious to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, for sure. And Congressman Khanna randomly has ended up really this being from California.
Yeah, that's right.
And being in the House means that, you know, he's at the center of the Newsom Feinstein stuff, but he's also at the center of what's going on with Kevin McCarthy. So it'll be interesting to hear his perspective over whether he and his colleagues are inclined to bail Kevin McCarthy out. Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.